Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Right after we got off air Thursday night, and it's a little bit of a serious topic, and it's a little bit of a sad topic, but it's certainly a topic that a lot of people have reached out to me about over the last probably 72 or so hours as we record, and that is the health and the status of Bill Self. Okay, so Bill Self, you don't need me to tell you, Hall of Fame coach, absolute legend, both on the court and off the court. The last couple of years, things have not been great. On the court, one of the great programs in college basketball has regressed. They haven't been terrible, but started preseason number one each of the last 2 years, finished fifth in the Big 12 2 years ago, finished sixth last year. And also, there have been some health issues as well. If you remember, 2023 NCAA tournament, Kansas, that was the last kind of great year they had on the court, was a number one seed. And Bill Self, right before the Big 12 tournament, we get this report that there is some sort of heart issue. There's some sort of health issue. I don't even know if they said heart at the time, but he didn't coach in the Big 12 tournament. He didn't coach in the NCAA tournament. If you remember, they lost to Arkansas in the round of 32. Arkansas makes their third straight Sweet 16 at the time. And again, afterwards, we find out that Bill Self had some sort of heart issue. I'm not going to speculate. I don't think it's ever been technically, officially, totally reported on what he had, but we knew that it was something not good that forced him to miss time. And to his credit, he has been back over the last couple of years coaching Kansas. Well, I bring it up because summer session in college hoops is kind of coming to a close. And again, Thursday night, we get just a really scary, really sad, but hopefully okay report out of Kansas basketball. For people who missed it, a release from Kansas basketball said that Bill Self was hospitalized after experiencing, quote, some concerning symptoms. And they added that he underwent a procedure to have 2 stents inserted and is expected to make a full recovery. The good news, as you can see on the ticker, thank you, Matt. According to the school, they released a statement on Saturday that Bill Self was released from the hospital with a statement that from Bill Self that said, quote, "I want to thank all these amazing doctors and nurses at LMH Health for the excellent care I received during my stay there. I feel strong and I am excited to be home. Our team has had a productive summer and look forward to our batteries being recharged and prepping for this upcoming season." So, Bill Self is out of the hospital. That's good news. But I did have more than one person ask me, Torres, do you think he's coaching this year? Do you think he's done? Well, I'll say this. I think he will probably coach this year. He references the batteries being recharged. But I kind of already thought that coming into this season, this might be the last year for Bill Self at Kansas. And I do think this probably makes it that much more likely that probably by the time Kansas runs out of the tunnel for the 2026-2027 season, they have a new coach. To be clear, it's not what I want. It's not what I'm rooting for. Bill Self is a legend. I hope he coaches as long as he wants to coach. But I think the variables of the team not living up to the standard that he set, his health clearly nothing close to 100%. I think this kind of might be the swan song. And I think it was kind of lining up to be that way anyway. So let's go ahead and talk about this because, listen, first of all, like I said, I think there was a scenario where Bill Self, this was his last year anyway. I mean, you have to be a fringe college basketball fan. You don't have to be a diehard to kind of know what has happened at Kansas over the last few years. You know, Bill Self for a 20-year period, I think you could probably argue was probably the most consistently excellent coach in college basketball. The Athletic a few weeks ago did their top coaches of the 21st century. I had a lot of issues with that list, including Jim Calhoun being 13th, another conversation for another day. But they had Bill Self at number 1, and I don't know that I would necessarily agree with that. I mean, this guy was insane. 16 Big 12 regular season titles since he got to Kansas, that run of 13, 14 in a row, whatever it ended up being, and 8 conference tournament titles, and that's on top of the 2 national championships. With that said, though, I think what has also been apparent is that the last couple of years, and I really think as NIL has kind of taken the form that it has, combined with the transfer portal taking the form that at least now it currently is, there's no doubt that Kansas has regressed. And I'm always careful in how I say this because Kansas fans will get on you on social media. NIL did technically start in the summer of 2021, but that was a weird time, right? Nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody really knew what was allowed. Nobody, I think at the time, was willing to push kind of the pay-for-play stuff, which we now see. So Kansas wins a national championship in 2022, but immediately, right after that, it becomes obvious that this is going to be a pay-for-play era that was right around the time, ironically, we just talked about him, that Nico committed to Tennessee. And the last 3 years have been way different than the previous era of college basketball. Essentially pay-for-play that we're calling NIL. And I think as important, the transfer portal in the manner that it is. Every single year, at least for now, probably until we get collective bargaining, every single player on every single roster is a free agent. And I don't think you can deny that Bill Self has regressed as a coach these last couple of years. He hasn't regressed as a coach, but the program has regressed overall. And so the last 2 years, it's been disappointing. You bring in Hunter Dickinson 2 years ago. And by the way, I should even give a little bit of backstory, but I think everybody knows Bill Self at his best was the guy that has had a great deal of success with 2, 3, 4-year players. We all know the names. Christian Brown, who's obviously in the NBA with the Denver Nuggets, Devontae Graham, Frank Mason, some of the Morris twins. Bill Self was great if you gave him 2, 3, 4 years, but he hasn't been the same as the roster turnover kind of changes year over year. I referenced the fact that the summer of 2023, they get Hunter Dickinson, number one player in the transfer portal. Start the season, preseason number one, it just does not work out. Well, reload last summer, bring in AJ Storr, bring in Rylan Griffin, bring in all the guys that they brought in, and they were even worse. 6th place in the Big 12 this year. And so it, for whatever reason, hasn't worked out. And I just think the reason is Bill Self is not at his best with roster turnover. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody about this actually at the Adidas event 2 weekends ago when they had the AAU event in Los Angeles, is you start looking at this NIL era. Who would you say in the Big 12 has kind of mastered it or at least continues to win at a high level? Houston, certainly coming off a Final Four, I would say fits that bill. Texas Tech, coming off an Elite Eight. Grant McCaslin brings back the Big 12 Player of the Year. They certainly seem to have the NIL portal era figured out. Iowa State, they recruit a different kind of player than pretty much everybody else in the league, but it works for them. They figured out NIL in the portal for them. BYU, small sample size. They got to prove it year over year, but coming off a Sweet 16 in year one, have a preseason, I think, relatively consensus top 10 team. Arizona, kind of the same, new to the Big 12, make the Big 12 championship game in year one, beat Kansas along the way. And so I just bring it up because Kansas, for whatever reason, it has not worked out. And I think even going into this summer, there was kind of a sentiment of Bill Self doesn't really figure it out this year. And if you're talking about a 5th, 6th, 7th place finish in the Big 12 next year, I don't think anyone's going to force Bill Self out, but I think he's going to sit there and look in the mirror and say, can I still do this at the highest level? And I think, I'll be honest, just talking to people who know him way better than I do, because I don't know him at all, but I know enough people who do, and they say he has sort of been a different dude since the health issues from 2, 3, 4 years ago. By the way, how could he not be? That's not a criticism. That's just a fact. How could you not be after what he went through in 2023? And so I think there was this sentiment that this coming year, it's kind of the swan song, right? Is that, yes, I think if it went perfect and you make a Final Four, yeah, he probably comes back. This is all prior to what happened on Friday. But, if everything goes perfect, then yeah, you keep running it back and whatever. But this is the year. He's got Darren Peterson, the potential number one pick in the NBA draft. Now, again, to be clear, I know that he has been at his best, usually with 2, 3, 4-year players. Darren Peterson's a little bit of a different dude, though, okay? So you got Darren Peterson. You seemingly have built a talented roster around him. And I think most people kind of thought this was the swan song of if it doesn't work out, you're kind of out of excuses, right? It almost reminds me of John Calipari at Kentucky, where he tried to go old, then he tried to go young, then he tried to change the offense. And at some point, it's just you need a fresh start or you need to not be here. And that's not even criticism of Cal. It's just a fact. And I kind of feel the same with Bill Self. Went all in on Hunter Dickinson, didn't work. Then went all in on the portal, doesn't work. Now he's kind of going in with that freshman star and role players around him. If it doesn't work, I just don't know what his future is. That's not a criticism. It's just a fact. And I think this health thing only changes it a little bit. And I think it does set him up to have a very nice swan song if he is so inclined. You make a nice run with Darren Peterson, you call it a career. You don't make a nice run with Darren Peterson, it's kind of just, you haven't figured out this era and it's over. So I don't wish any ill will towards Bill Self. Like I said, I hope he coaches forever. I hope he's good enough and healthy enough to keep coaching until he's 75 or 80 if he wants to. You know, Coach K coached into his 70s. Roy Williams coached into his 70s. Jim Boeheim coached into his mid to late 70s. If you're healthy enough, man, keep doing it. But the combination of the program struggling now, I mean, listen, I'm not a doctor, but we got to have an honest conversation about the health, right? Second heart situation in 3 years. Maybe it is time to reconsider. I still think he coaches this year, to be clear. I know he again, you can see on the screen that he said that, thank you to the medical team, blah, 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 blah. I still think he coaches this year, but I think, and again, assuming the doctors clear it. But I think after this is probably it for him. And again, we'll see what happens. But if you were asking me to bet money, which would be a sick thing to bet on, I must say, I would guess that this is probably his final season. So speedy recovery to Bill Self. Hope he's on the sideline. Hope he gets one more run at it with a potential transformational player in Darren Peterson. But that was the news of the weekend. A lot of you asked me about his current future, as in, what about this coming season? I think he probably coaches this year. I don't know about beyond that.